2, 1, 0.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
All right, welcome back to the Code RAD show. With me again is Jim.
Hello,
Jim.
Hello.
We're trying something new this time. We are going to talk about comic books. Let me start by showing my comic book. This is Interplanet. It's available at Fund My Comic. I'll put the link in the. I'll put the link beneath the video. So, Jim, you're here to talk about some comic books. Are you ready to get started?
I indeed am. Very excited about this.
All right, me too. But first, I have to play my introduction to our comic book segment. It's called What You'll See at the End of Our Video.
Sure.
All right, welcome to the Atomic Archive. This is where we talk about comic books. The idea is we pick a comic book that we feel like talking about for whatever reason. Might be one of our favorite comic books, might be something we just found or whatever, picked at random. So, Jim, I think you are going to get started.
Yes.
So I think you click on, if you click on your slideshow, it will say add to stage, and sometimes you just have to figure it out. I'm not sure exactly, but see what you got to do to get it on the recording. If you move your cursor over the slideshow, a box should come up that says add to stage. And if you click that.
I don't quite see it.
Let's see. I think you can control it. I mean, I wonder. I mean, since you put it up there.
Let's see. I can see the cover. I can see him breaking the chains.
Yeah.
But when you move
nothing happens when you put your cursor over that picture?
No.
All right. Let me see. Maybe I have to do it. I'm adding it to the stage.
There you go. Okay.
And, yeah, if I have to click through it, that's fine. Why don't you see if you're able to? If you put your cursor on the slide.
Here we go.
Yeah, there you go. All right, awesome.
Okay.
All right, maybe I'm the one that had to add it. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead. Superman. Does that say Superman #1?
No, actually, it says #1 best-selling comics magazine, which I'm not sure how true that is, because I know at this time, and even the 60s, this is from 1971, but even as far as the 60s, as far back as the 60s, Marvel was outselling DC. Easily. But yeah, I mean, I know Marvel's the more popular too, but I've always been more of a DC fan. And this actually is my favorite cover of all time. And something very interesting with this issue that I didn't realize. This actually is the first monthly Superman comic. So before it wasn't monthly. Before
really,
issues 1 through 5 were quarterly. Issues 6 through 85 were bi-monthly. Issues 86 to 232 were published 8 times a year. So I don't know if that's, I guess, quasi, but after this, it was monthly from here on out.
I can't believe I didn't know that. Yeah,
I did not know either, and I had no idea. Had no
And
idea.
if that was true of Superman, it must have been true of other comic books, I would think.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. Like Batman and Wonder Woman and the others.
Yeah.
But let's see. But I'm sure you've seen this cover before. It's a very famous cover.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, even though the image isn't the same, DC would use this for merchandise. Here we go. Here, a color form set from 1978.
Awesome.
Maybe you had that as a kid. I know we did, or my brother. Either I did or my brother did.
Oh, color forms are awesome. Yeah.
Color form
Definitely had
great,
superhero color forms.
Oh yeah, Batman, Spider-Man, Justice League. I think there was. I remember there was a piece of cardboard, and you would move it. You would stick Clark Kent on one side, then you move this little lever, and then he would, become quotes Superman in a sense.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds awesome.
kind of funny how these. So yeah, this image right here has been emblazoned in my brain for decades.
Yeah.
So another piece of merchandise. They would use it for records.
Awesome.
Do you know Power Records? Are you familiar with them?
No.
No. Okay. So basically, they were made in the 70s and I guess part of the 80s, and they had a bunch of them. They had Spider-Man. They had Star Trek. They had the $6 Million Man. They had Batman. All kinds of. Planet of the Apes was another one, but basically what they were these kind of like radio dramas.
Nice.
For kids, yeah, and most of them would come with a book and record.
Yeah.
But it's like when you hear the bell, ding, turn the page, and that was one of the ones that they're actually based out of Newark, actually. But yeah, they made quite a few records like that. Maybe another episode down the road we can talk about Power Records.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I love it.
Even one for Man Thing, surprisingly. Yeah,
Wow.
not exactly a household name back then or even now, but they had one for him. So yeah.
Yeah.
And also I wanted to show you what's next is the international. This cover's been shown all over the world. Here we have.
Nice.
That took me a while to find. For whatever
Yeah.
reason, it's like collecting American comics published in different languages. Spanish, French, German, Italian, etc.
Yeah.
But you probably guess the one language that always escaped me.
Japanese.
Exactly. Yes. So that took decades for me to find that.
Oh, wow.
On eBay, I found, but now they're popping up more on eBay. But before, you could never find a copy. But finally, yeah, I was able to find a few issues in Japanese. So yeah.
Yeah.
So very cool. This lasted only about 2 years because American comics have had some success in Japan, but they prefer to stick to their own comics.
Yeah, they got their own style of superhero.
They really do. Yeah, they do.
I think their superheroes have their own unique moral code.
They do, and a lot of them usually are masked.
Yeah.
I think they kind of think the whole thing. It's like, well, hey, no problem. I got glasses. That's going to fool everybody. They won't.
Yeah.
They'll never know it's me. So, but that doesn't really kind of gets. Yeah. I think a mask is a better way to conceal your identity, rather than saying it's okay. I got glasses. Let's see, and let's go ahead a little further. This is actually by somebody we know very well. Ed Lord did that for me. Very nice piece. I thought
very nice. Yeah.
Very nice homage. I don't know if you draw, but for whatever reason, I can never draw that S. I always have a hard time drawing it, but he did it. He did it perfectly.
Oh yeah, I love drawing the Superman S. It's really hard, but once you crack it, once you figure out how to do it, it becomes easy.
Yeah, I gotta try. Yeah, it's if you can show me how to do it, because I love to learn. Just never can get it quite right. So let's see. So basically, DC was going through some. Well, they're kind of in a slump. There weren't really any recent film or TV projects at the time. I think the only thing they had going on was Super Friends. That was about it.
Okay.
So they're kind of in a slump, and Marvel was still really outselling them. So
yeah,
they had to make some changes. And 1970, you probably know this name, a man by the name of Julius Schwartz took over the editing duties from a guy named Mort Weisinger, who was the editor of Superman since 1958.
Sure. I think, yeah, he was big on Silver Age Superman titles.
Very much, yeah. That whole, red kryptonite, gold kryptonite, that was...
Stories like Superman gets fat, Superman needs to go on a diet, stuff like that.
Things like that, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he gets thin, he has like a lion's head, or he's got an ant's head, or whatever. Really some really crazy stuff. So when he retired from DC in 1970, Julius Schwartz took over, and Schwartz had realized that the character needed to go through some changes because readers were getting smarter, they're getting more sophisticated. So he approached a guy that you might have heard of, Denny O'Neil, who actually got to start Charlton Comics in the 60s. He started working for DC in 1968. He was hired by another name you might know, Dick Giordano, and worked at DC for years, or decades practically. He approached Schwartz approached Denny O'Neil to, hey, would you want to write for Superman? And he was rather reluctant because, as we discussed, he's not an easy character to write stories about because he's almost too powerful. And in an interview, O'Neil said he remembered a story where Superman basically blows out a star, an actual star, just like that, and as easily as a kid would blow out a birthday candle.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, if he can do that, I mean, where's the conflict there? There's no conflict. So we'll see. As my presentation, we'll see a little later, he decided, well, one thing I can do, I can depower him. So that's what he did. And I'll show you how in a little bit. But O'Neil was famous, or well known at the time, for writing, Batman and Green Arrow, and he always liked to put social relevance in the stories, and racism, the environment, drug abuse, poverty, so he was reluctant to take the job, but you got to have to put food on the table. So he actually only lasted a year on the book. He described it, writing the story, or writing the title, as, quote, hellish. And I think probably O'Neil was probably more comfortable writing for the more of the street level heroes like Batman and Green Arrow, that sort of thing. And I don't blame him; those are much easier characters to write about. So he asked to be let to get off the book for over a year, and they let him go. And he would work for DC, decades later. He became the editor of Batman at one point, but even though he lasted only a year, his run on Superman is considered to be one of the greatest still. So, he thought one thing he could do, Kryptonite Nevermore, as you see in the bottom there, he felt that Kryptonite was basically just overused as a plot device, and also just a little too easy. I can remember an episode of Super Friends where some guy, I'm not kidding, he makes a kryptonite onion roll. And I don't know how, but I was like, wow, that's okay. That's it's creative. I'll say that's creative. But just, so basically I think, it just got to be too passé. So what he decided to do was, let's just get rid of it. And we're going to see here. Okay, so here we go. So basically, this guy here, this gentleman here, decides that he'll use kryptonite as a way to create cheap energy for underdeveloped nations, like third world countries. So, but of course, something goes horribly wrong, and the machine becomes faulty.
Oh no!
And sadly goes kaboom, or as you can see here, klavoomp, I guess. Klavoomp. That's so it blows up, and of course he takes a a lot of kryptonite radiation. He gets knocked out, and eventually, of course, he does revive.
Mm-hmm.
And but you'll see if you have this imprint right here, we'll see that later on in the series or in the story. The imprint's right there. But so hey, guess what? Thankfully, every piece of kryptonite on Earth gets turned into iron. So yeah, I mean, probably not the best way to get rid of the problem, but it's something.
Yeah,
it's something. Yeah.
Yeah, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, it's pretty convenient, but
yeah.
Said that, I guess so good for him, I guess. Of course, you see the paper. Now he's really invulnerable. Let's see. So also here, do you remember the character Morgan Edge?
No.
Okay, he was a character. At first I thought he was introduced in this issue, but apparently he wasn't.
Okay.
He was introduced, actually created by Jack Kirby, and he first appeared in Jimmy Olsen.
Wow.
And he owned a company called Galaxy Communications. Basically, he was a broadcasting mogul. So eventually he bought the Daily Planet. And interestingly enough, Morgan Edge was actually based on a real person. I had his picture, but I forgot to upload it. That's my fault. But he was based on former CBS head James Thomas Aubrey Jr., who was the president of CBS from 1959 to 1965. And like Edge, as you'll see, he was very abrasive and just had an ego problem. Aubrey would eventually be let go from his job from misconduct.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't actually very... he was basically earned the nickname the Smiling Cobra from people who work with him. Just not a very nice man. And we'll see here. So basically, he wants Clark Kent to leave his job as a reporter and become a TV anchorman. And Clark is very reluctant. And of course, he says, you're my you're my employee. You'll do very well to remember it. See, being very abrasive.
Yeah.
If I say you're working for me, and if I say you're an anchor, you're an anchor.
Mm-hmm.
Now get to it. And so, not the most people-oriented person, but and this actually was Julie Schwartz's idea to make him a TV reporter because he figured the younger readers weren't getting their news from print; they're getting it from TV.
Yeah.
So they figured that we'll make him a TV anchor instead.
Yeah.
So let's see. You've probably seen this where he eats. It's this guy here thinks he's got kryptonite, but instead it's basically it's iron. So he starts to actually eat the iron, and you maybe you've seen this page before, but just
I don't think I've seen these panels before at all. That's hilarious.
No, okay. Yeah, no, he actually eats the kryptonite. He actually eats it. So that's
just like a big booger now.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. Yeah, same color too. So here we have, he slowly gets depowered. He's noticing he's using his heat vision here, and it's not working. He's very confused. He's basically just trying to save the pilots from the crashing plane. So he's like, okay, well, heat vision doesn't work, so I'll just rip it open.
Yeah.
He has another problem where he tries to carry the plane, and he finds that he's getting weaker. He's not sure why.
Yeah.
But we see why. Or maybe we won't.
Yeah, it looks like slide 15 is blank.
Yeah, sorry about that. So basically, maybe I can... so the indentation that he makes... Hold on a second. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No problem. We can look at this page while you're doing your thing. It's an exciting page. No problem.
Let's go back to the indentation. I'm looking for it. Okay, so basically, yeah, I'm ashamed of the slide was blank, but basically a sand creature that looks just like Superman comes out of that indentation, sand creature.
Oh wow.
And basically he's basically stealing his powers one by one.
Oh, yeah. I thought somehow the disappearance of kryptonite was somehow causing Superman's powers to weaken.
No, it was a sand creature. And
all right.
Yeah.
All right, tricky.
So launch I think was about 9 issues. But yeah, I think eventually returned to full power, but it was kind of cool to see him depowered for a while.
Yeah.
Because
yeah, sure.
Because I gotta face it that at the Silver Age comics or all those old issues of Superman they're kind of boring because you couldn't stop him. Basically, he would juggle planets, he would, be able to lift like actual buildings. And it's just, there's no challenge there. It's just kind of very kind of boring. It's just, and if there's no challenge, there's no conflict, then I don't think you have much of a story there. So, but I think this is why I like this story arc so much, is that it just, he actually was in danger. He actually was faced with a challenge.
Yeah. And so he was depowered for like 9 issues. About how long did it take for them to bring kryptonite back?
I think not too long. I think maybe when Denny O'Neil left, I think that's when they brought it back.
Yeah.
I don't think it was right away, but just like, yeah. But yeah, no, I think he would have stayed. If he had stayed longer, I think it'd be more changes. But I think he just didn't want to do it anymore after a year. He was just like, I can't do this.
Sure. Elder. Well, I don't know if in 1971 he was an elder statesman of comic books. I'm sure he was a lot younger back then, but he was a big guy in the comic book industry.
Oh yeah. But I think it's hard to write a story about a character that just you can't really hurt him, you can't burn him, you can't shoot him, you can't. There's so much you can't do.
Yeah.
So but I think with Batman, there's so much you can do, and I think another thing about Superman that kind of holds him back are his lack of. I mean, he's got some good villains, but not like say Batman or Spider-Man. He's
not a huge rogues gallery.
Not really. You got Luthor's okay. I like Brainiac. Metallo's good.
Yeah.
But you guys like the Toy Man, and it's like it's okay. I got toys. That's not going to do anything. So
yeah.
The guy called a Prankster that was kind of like a low-level Joker. He had like gags and killer cream pies, like things like that.
Well, let's not forget Michael J. Pollard as Mr. Mxyzptlk.
He's actually, he's a fun villain. He's fun. I like him. I do like him.
Great.
Yeah.
And what was that show? What was that, Superboy? That
it was, yeah.
Pollard on.
That was kind of odd seeing him in the orange tunic. But I know Mr. Mxyzptlk was supposed to show up in Superman 3, and the guy that thought about playing would have been Dudley Moore, apparently.
Oh wow!
So I thought it was just kind of cool to kind of imagine what that would look like. But we could see Michael J. wearing the the tunic and the derby, and that was kind of that was cool.
Yeah. I can't see with the direction that superhero movies are going in currently that they'll bring Mr. Mxyzptlk into a Superman movie of any kind. That's a shame. That would be a good one.
They might. Well, I don't know. James Gunn's a fan of. I don't know. I'm not sure what they're going to do, to be honest. But
yeah.
The new movie comes out next year.
Yeah.
But I think everybody's seen the picture of him putting his shoes on or his boots on, which is okay. And I think maybe him doing something a little more exciting, I think would have been probably a little better. But
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That might have been good for a single panel deep inside a comic book somewhere, not as like the teaser promotion for the the big reinvention of Superman.
Yeah.
Not really that exciting, and just like some kind of pink jellyfish flying into the clouds.
I forgot about the pink jellyfish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Starro or something. I don't know.
Starro. Yeah, that would be a good one. So is that all your thoughts on
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
the end of
Yeah.
Kryptonite Nevermore?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
All right. So then we shall get right into my presentation. I picked something a lot more obscure, a lot more random. I should not be on slide 2. This is Cheyenne Kid. I picked up this comic book grab bag at Brave New World in Philadelphia.
Very nice.
I thought it would be fun just to pull a random comic book out of there to talk about on this show. And lo and behold, I got Cheyenne Kid from 1968. Very exciting. So issue number 69 from November 1968. Cover price 12 cents. While I was looking into Cheyenne Kid a little bit, I mean, I think, price of comic books went from like 10 cents to 12 cents over like 10 years. It was more than 10 years it took comic books to go up 2 cents. So yeah, I think inflation is a little bit worse nowadays.
Much.
Yeah. to take like, I think almost like 20 years to go up 2 cents. Yeah, that's pretty low inflation by today's standards. Here's what I really like. Current value, $14 for this comic book. I mean, of course, I would say my edition is not exactly mint condition, but yeah, this thing was 20 comic books for $10. If they're all worth $14, yeah, I'm gonna be rich. I just have to go back and buy a few more of those. But yeah, like I said, it was not in mint condition, and I don't think. Well, the Cheyenne Kid. This issue is called Kiowa's Revenge, which is kind of a weird title because Kiowa is a tribe, not the name of the villain. And I also would like to point out something I noticed. If you look at this cover, I mean, pretty cool cover. Action. There's the Cheyenne Kid tackling the villain of the story. But then I'll skip that for now. We see page 1, the Kiowa's Revenge. Here we have the first panel is the cover. Alan Moore stole this for Watchmen.
Oh, did he really?
Well, remember how Watchmen was every cover of the series was the first panel of the issue?
No, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, and Watchmen, that Dave Gibbons would draw the first panel of the comic book as the cover. The cover was the first panel, and so that's what they did back then too. And this is I looked at it; it's exactly the same picture, which they did not do that in Watchmen. But so Cheyenne Kid is a character that's been around for a while. I think he was an orphan that was raised by Cheyenne Indians. In this comic book, he's working for the military. He's in the army out in the frontier. So yeah, here we have a movie from 1933, another one from 1940. There probably was more, I'm not sure. And so here we have the Cheyenne Kid is tackling the evil Bad Otter, the villain of the story. Yes.
Bad Otter. All right.
Yes. I've heard he had a cousin named Dirty Beaver, but the comics code prevented her from appearing in the comic book.
Oh,
so here we have some cool action scenes. Bad Otter stole a horse from the lieutenant, and so the Cheyenne Kid's got to bring him in. And so, of course, we all know what they do with horse thieves. The lieutenant is very angry, so he's going to shoot this Indian for stealing his horse. But here, the Cheyenne Kid sneaks to his cell at night. He's like whispering, "Hey, it's me, Cheyenne." And Bad Otter says, "I know you, Cheyenne. I kill." He's a little slow. He doesn't realize Cheyenne Kid is there to save him. So Cheyenne Kid opens a cell, lets him escape, run away. So as soon as a lieutenant finds out, they got to go find him. They go look for him. Bad Otter clonks Cheyenne Kid on the head with a stick, and Cheyenne Kid gets captured, brought to the Kiowa village. But then things turn around. It's very symmetrical. Bad Otter comes to the Cheyenne Kid's cell and says, I'm going to let you go now. And so as Cheyenne Kid is sneaking away, Bad Otter reveals, I just wanted to let you feel how I felt being imprisoned and then having to escape for your life. Because here, Cheyenne Kid is feeling like he's got to escape from the village, but it's all an elaborate ruse. They're just pretending to chase him. It was just to make him feel scared, so he knew how it felt. And so a nice economical little story, pretty entertaining for whatever it was, 6 pages or something. It was written by Joe Gill, who turns out also created Captain Atom.
Very cool.
Who's striking quite a sassy pose there. I think that was drawn by Steve Ditko. The artist of this issue we just read created, I should say co-create. Joe Gill co-created Captain Atom with Steve Ditko. And here, Joe Gill and Pat Boyette, the team that wrote and drew this story, together created The Peacemaker.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, another Charlton comic book. So, yeah, not the most well-known names in the comic book industry, but they created a couple of characters. They had a hand in creating some characters that have, made a mark somewhat. And, of course, we know that years later, I think around 1983, Charlton Comics was, of course, bought by DC Comic Books.
Yes.
And I found, while I was researching this, I found a picture of Alan Moore from 1983. I don't think anyone's ever seen this picture before, but
Wow.
Right around the time, DC was buying Charlton Comic Books. Here's Alan Moore making plans to take the Charlton characters and turn them into Watchmen. Things didn't turn out the way he was hoping, and who knows how different comic book history would have been if Alan Moore had been able to actually use those characters. Maybe he'd still be working for DC. They'd be a big, happy family if he had not been forced to go and create his own characters. And we all know what happened with that. So,
see, you shouldn't have worn yellow. See, yellow make you stick out.
Right, yeah.
Trying to be inconspicuous.
So let me see what else. Of course, it's
I love these.
Yeah, I took the ads in these comic books were enough for any kid to conquer the world. You see here, on one page, you could get a tank that fits 2 kids in it, a monster-sized skeleton for only $1.75. Of course, now they make skeletons that are like 20 feet tall. People have them all over their lawns. They're like the size of they're as tall as your house around September and October. And this is a little smaller, but this is some kind of martial arts called Ketsugo, which I never heard of. But yeah, you could learn martial arts, have a skeleton, and have a tank. And yeah, for like less than $10.
That's a steal. Well, so you got to have the X-ray goggles too. There they are. The X-ray glasses. You got to have those too.
Yeah.
Those are a must.
Yeah, here on the top of this page, most of this is too small for me to see anyway, but here it says a live chameleon. I guess they mailed it to you. Yeah. Oh, and here a cannon. So, yeah, there was
carbide cannon.
Well, actually, I think I cut out the best things from that ad and put them on a slide here. So here, you could get a hot air balloon. I haven't seen any bombs on these pages, but it would be very useful if you had you had bombs. You could carry them in your hot air balloon, drop them on your enemies.
German medals?
Blackheads.
Wow.
What's that?
German medals? Jeez.
Well, yeah, that is Yeah, that caught my eye as well. Famous German medals. And
Wow.
in case you're curious, I mean, the pictures say it all, what kinds of famous German medals they are. A Hercules wristband that looks like it could do some serious damage. Wow. Oh, a secret bug. The possibilities are endless. Stick that in your teacher's desk, see what she's up to while you're at gym class or music or whatever. There's the cannon, a secret chemistry library. Oh, so yeah, I said they didn't have any bombs, but you can make your own bomb, bring it up in your UFO-looking hot air balloon up there,
See,
and
that I
you
would
are
buy.
ready to conquer the world. Yeah.
I would definitely buy the mammoth 9-foot hot air balloon. That I would buy in a heartbeat. Yes, yes.
Yeah. You'd probably spend all morning inflating it, maybe with like a bicycle pump. As a kid, you probably had, a tire pump and then it would probably take you a couple hours to and then it says hot air balloon. Where are you going to get the hot air from? I don't know, but yeah. But I think kids who ordered that probably ended up disappointed.
I would say it's most likely. Yeah. Wow.
So, I just wanted to say a few words about this. There were 3 stories in the Cheyenne Kid. The first 2 involved the Cheyenne Kid. The third story involved this guy, the man from Series 5, who is an alien who is wandering around the Old West. I think kind of like being a snake oil salesman, passing as human, helping people, saving people. And so here I tried to enlarge the credits here. Words, commas, and exclamation points by Sergius O'Shaughnessy. Kind of humorous way to list the credits. Pencils, inks, and erasures by Jim Aparo. So I found that interesting. This third feature was drawn by Jim Aparo, which is pretty cool. And I'm not going to go over the story, but you can see the art is really nice. It's 1968.
It's good. Very good.
I read that Jim Aparo was from Connecticut, which Charlton was as well. So I kind of get the feeling he just kind of walked over to the local comic book company and said, hey, give me a job. And they didn't at first, but I believe it was Dick Giordano, who you mentioned in your presentation. I believe it was Dick Giordano that eventually hired him. And so, yeah, I mean, these panels in these old comic books are so small. There's not a lot of great action. But I mean, the faces, the characteristics of these characters, they're fantastic. So, so I thought that was interesting. Early work by Jim Aparo before, I would say, most famous for Batman, 70s, right? Maybe 80s.
Easily, yeah. He was on the Batman for I think as late as the 90s or maybe 2000s. He was on there for a long time. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Great artist. I think he said he died in 2005.
I believe he did. Yes. Yeah, that's a shame because I really liked him. But
fantastic!
Great art.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I think of a Batman comic book I would have bought as a kid, I think it probably would have been drawn by Jim Aparo. That's his style that I think of as kid reading Batman comic books.
No, definitely, yeah. Glack.
Yeah, lots of great sound effects in this whole book. So, thank you, Jim. That was very informative. I loved learning about Kryptonite Nevermore. Sadly, I haven't read that issue. It seems like a foundational Superman story for the modern era.
Yeah, surprised how short it was, but it was like 13 or 14 pages. But I realized that the comic also had a backup story, which was Jor-El. But I was like, well, I don't want to do that. I'll just stick to the Kryptonite Nevermore storyline, or part 1.
Yeah.
Part 1 of the Kryptonite Nevermore / Sand Creature story arc.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we can call this an episode.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
Right. No, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for watching this far.
All right. Take care, everybody.